The people pleaser inside you was not created because you are naturally weak. It was created through a belief that slowly became part of your identity. If I keep everyone happy, they will accept me. If I never disappoint anyone, they will not reject me. If I always give more, they will see my value. So you learn to become agreeable. You learn to say yes before asking what you truly wanted. You learn to apologize even when you had done nothing wrong. You learn to hide your anger, silence your opinions, and make yourself smaller so other people would feel comfortable. For a long time, you may have called this kindness, but this video is not here to make you less kind. It is here to destroy the fear that has been hiding behind your kindness, the fear that you must sacrifice yourself to deserve love, respect, or acceptance. The people pleaser survives by making one dangerous promise. I will never become a problem for anyone. You become the person who always understands, always forgives, always adjusts, and always makes room. When someone needs help, you immediately feel responsible. When someone is upset, you assume you must fix it. When someone becomes distant, you search your behavior for mistakes. You become so focused on protecting everyone else from discomfort that you stop noticing how much discomfort you are carrying inside. Your own needs are postponed. Your own boundaries are ignored. Your own voice becomes quieter. And every time you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable, the people pleaser inside you becomes stronger. This is where the transformation must begin. You have to understand that people pleasing is not always kindness. Sometimes it is fear wearing the mask of kindness. You may help because you genuinely care, but you may also help because you are afraid that refusing will make people dislike you. You may agree because you respect another opinion, but you may also agree because conflict makes you uncomfortable. You may forgive because you believe in compassion, but you may also forgive because you are afraid that protecting yourself will cause someone to leave. The action may look the same from the outside, but the motivation changes everything. Real kindness comes from freedom. People-pleasing comes from fear. Real kindness says, I choose to give. People-pleasing says, I have to give or I may lose my place. The people pleaser inside you depends on your fear of rejection. It tells you that being disliked is dangerous. It convinces you that one disagreement can destroy a relationship. It makes you believe that someone's disappointment is proof that you have done something wrong. Because of this, you begin managing people instead of connecting with them. You carefully choose every word. You hide your real opinions. You agree with things that violate your values. You tolerate behavior that hurts you because you are more afraid of losing the person than losing your peace. But every time you choose acceptance over honesty, you send yourself a silent message. Their approval matters more than my truth. That message slowly destroys confidence. You cannot build self-respect while repeatedly betraying yourself. You cannot become mentally strong while allowing every opinion to decide how you should behave. You cannot feel free while constantly asking, will they be upset if I say no? The people pleaser inside you keeps you trapped because it teaches you to measure your worth through other people's reactions. If they smile, you feel safe. If they praise you, you feel valuable. If they become disappointed, you feel guilty. If they criticize you, you question yourself. Your emotional state becomes controlled by people who may not even understand how much power you have given them. But here is the truth that begins killing the people pleaser. You are allowed to disappoint people. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your time. You are allowed to disagree without becoming cruel. You are allowed to have needs without apologizing for existing. Someone's disappointment does not automatically mean you made the wrong decision. Sometimes people are disappointed because they expected access to a version of you that no longer exists. They were comfortable with your endless availability. They benefited from your silence. They liked you most when you never challenged their expectations. When you begin choosing yourself, they may call you selfish, not because you became selfish, but because they lost the version of you that was easiest to control. This is why the people pleaser inside you may resist change. The moment you begin setting boundaries, guilt will appear. Your mind may tell you to explain more, apologize, return, or make everyone comfortable again. But guilt is not always a warning that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is simply the emotional discomfort of doing something new. You have spent so long placing yourself last that choosing yourself feels unnatural. You've been trained to believe that your value comes from being useful. Now you must learn that your value exists even when you are not helping, pleasing, fixing, or sacrificing. You do not need to become cold to kill the people pleaser inside you. You do not need to stop caring. You do not need to become selfish, distant, or harsh. You only need to stop offering kindness as payment for acceptance. Help when you genuinely choose to help. Give when giving does not require you to abandon yourself. Love people without losing your identity. Be compassionate without becoming responsible for everyone's happiness. The goal is not to stop being a good person. The goal is to stop believing that being good requires you to disappear. The people pleaser inside you begins to die the moment you stop asking, how can I keep everyone happy? And start asking, why have I been willing to lose myself just to be accepted? And once you recognize every moment of self-betrayal, you can begin reclaiming the power you have been giving away just to belong. Every time you betray yourself just to be accepted, the people pleaser inside you becomes stronger. It grows whenever you say yes while your mind is screaming no. It grows whenever you agree with something you do not believe because you are afraid of conflict. It grows whenever you apologize for having needs, hide your true feelings to protect someone else's comfort, or sacrifice your peace because you fear being called selfish. These moments may seem small, but repeated self-betrayal slowly changes the way you see yourself. You begin believing that your needs are less important, your boundaries are negotiable, and your value depends on how useful you are to other people. This is exactly how the people pleaser takes control, not through one major decision, but through hundreds of small moments when you choose approval over your own truth. At first, people-pleasing may appear to bring peace. You avoid arguments. People praise you for being easygoing. They call you helpful, understanding, reliable, and kind. But beneath that approval, another reality begins to develop. You become exhausted because everyone expects access to your time. You feel invisible because people know what you do for them, but rarely ask what you need. You become resentful because you keep giving without receiving the same consideration. Yet you remain silent because you are afraid that expressing your frustration will make you seem difficult. This is the trap. You sacrifice your peace to avoid conflict, but the conflict does not disappear. It simply moves inside you. The people pleaser inside you wants everyone to believe that you are always okay. So you smile when you feel hurt. You say it's fine when it is not fine. You accept disrespect because speaking up feels risky. You keep showing up for people who only remember you when they need something. Then you wonder why nobody recognizes your value. But people cannot respect boundaries they have never been shown. If you continually teach others that you will tolerate anything, they may begin treating your patience as an unlimited resource. This does not mean every person is intentionally trying to use you. It means your behavior communicates what you are willing to accept. And every time you abandon your own limits to remain liked, you quietly teach people that your approval can be purchased with very little respect. This is where personal power begins to disappear. Power is not controlling other people. It is the ability to remain loyal to yourself even when doing so creates discomfort. The people pleaser loses this power because every decision becomes controlled by one question: how will they react? You stop choosing based on your values and begin choosing based on other people's expectations. You may know what you want, but you hesitate because someone might disagree. You may recognize that a situation is unhealthy, but you remain because leaving could disappoint someone. You may have a clear opinion, but you hide it because you want to be accepted. Slowly, your life becomes a performance designed to keep everyone comfortable. And the more you perform, the further you move away from who you really are. Approval gained through self-betrayal is never real respect. Someone may like how easy you are to control, but that does not mean they respect you. Someone may praise your endless availability, but that does not mean they value your time. Someone may enjoy your silence, but that does not mean they honor your voice. True respect begins when people understand that you have standards, limits, priorities, and a life that cannot be controlled by guilt. The people pleaser inside you fears that boundaries will make people leave. But if someone only stays because you have no boundaries, what are they truly respecting? The real you, or the version of you that never says no? Every unnecessary sacrifice creates a hidden debt inside you. You may tell yourself that you are giving freely, but if you secretly expect appreciation, loyalty, or equal effort in return, disappointment eventually appears. You begin thinking, after everything I have done, how can they treat me this way? But the painful truth is that people often accept the version of you that you repeatedly present. If you never communicate your needs, they may assume you have none. If you always agree, they may assume you genuinely agree. If you always make yourself available, they may believe your time has no limits. This is why killing the people pleaser requires more than becoming aware of others. It requires becoming honest with yourself. Ask yourself how many times you have said yes because you feared rejection. How many times have you stayed silent because you feared being judged? How many opportunities have you lost because you were busy carrying responsibilities that were never yours? How many relationships have you maintained by becoming smaller, quieter, and easier to please? These questions may be uncomfortable, but discomfort is where transformation begins. You cannot reclaim power while pretending that self-betrayal is kindness. You must recognize the cost of constantly abandoning yourself. The moment you begin choosing honesty over approval, people may notice that you have changed. Some will respect the change. Others may resist it. Those who benefited from your people-pleasing may accuse you of becoming selfish, cold, or difficult. Their reaction can trigger the old fear inside you and make you want to return to your previous behavior. But remember, discomfort does not mean you are wrong. Sometimes it means you are finally refusing to play a role that was slowly destroying your identity. You do not need to become aggressive to reclaim your power. You do not need to punish people or reject everyone. You simply need to stop negotiating against yourself. When something violates your values, acknowledge it. When your time is limited, say so. When you disagree, speak honestly. When you need rest, take it without turning your exhaustion into an apology. Every time you honor your own limits, you weaken the people pleaser inside you. Every time you choose self-respect over automatic approval, you rebuild the trust you lost with yourself. The goal is not to make everyone unhappy. The goal is to stop making yourself unhappy so everyone else can remain comfortable. You can be generous without being used. You can be compassionate without becoming responsible for everyone. You can be kind without becoming obedient. And you can be loved for who you truly are, not for how completely you are willing to erase yourself. The people pleaser inside you loses power every time you stop trading your identity for acceptance and begin standing behind your own values. And once you stop betraying yourself to be liked, you are ready to learn how one simple word, no, can protect your peace without guilt or endless explanation. The word no is one of the smallest words in the language, yet for a people pleaser, it can feel like a threat. The moment someone asks for your time, energy, help, attention, or agreement, your mind may begin searching for reasons to say yes, even when you are exhausted, uncomfortable, or unwilling. You may already know that the request is too much, but another voice immediately appears. What if they become upset? What if they think I'm selfish? What if they stop liking me? So you agree, not because you want to, but because disappointing them feels more painful than betraying yourself. This is where the people pleaser inside you continues to survive. It turns every request into a test of your worth and makes you believe that saying no could cost you love, respect, or acceptance. But this video will begin killing that people pleaser the moment you understand one truth. Saying no does not make you cruel. It proves that your life has boundaries. Your time is limited. Your energy is limited. Your attention is limited. If you say yes to everything, you eventually have nothing left for your own goals, health, peace, or growth. Yet people pleasers often treat their own needs as less important than everyone else's. They believe other people deserve understanding, while they must remain endlessly available. They protect everyone else from disappointment while quietly accepting exhaustion. Over time, this creates a life where everyone has access to you, but you no longer feel connected to yourself. The people pleaser inside you fears the word no because it has learned to confuse rejection with responsibility. You may think that refusing a request means rejecting the person, but these are not the same thing. You can care about someone and still refuse what they ask. You can respect a relationship and still protect your time. You can be generous without becoming permanently available. A healthy no does not say, you do not matter. It says, my limits matter too. The people who genuinely respect you may feel disappointed, but they will understand that you are a human being with needs, priorities, and boundaries. Those who become angry simply because you have limits may reveal that they were more comfortable with your obedience than with your honesty. One of the strongest habits of a people pleaser is over-explaining. You do not simply say no, you create a long defense. You explain your schedule, your emotions, your reasons, and every detail surrounding your decision. Then you apologize repeatedly, hoping the other person will approve of your boundary. But excessive explanation often weakens the boundary you are trying to create. It communicates that your decision is open for negotiation and that the other person only needs to challenge your reasons long enough for you to change your mind. This is why a calm, direct response can be more powerful. I can't do that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available. I'm going to pass. These statements are not rude. They are clear. You do not owe everyone access to every detail of your life. Privacy is not dishonesty. A boundary is not an accusation. And a simple no does not require a courtroom defense. The people pleaser inside you may feel uncomfortable when you stop explaining, because it has spent years trying to make every decision acceptable to everyone. But your decisions do not become valid only after someone else approves them. You are allowed to stand behind a choice even when another person dislikes it. At first, guilt may appear. You may say no and then replay the conversation in your mind. You may wonder whether you sounded harsh. You may feel the urge to send another message, apologize, or offer more than you can genuinely give. This is where you must understand the difference between guilt and wrongdoing. Guilt is sometimes a signal that you violated your values, but sometimes it is simply the emotional discomfort of breaking an old pattern. If you have spent years saying yes automatically, a healthy no may feel wrong because it is unfamiliar, not because it is harmful. The people pleaser inside you will try to use that discomfort to pull you back into the same role. Do not allow temporary guilt to become permanent self-betrayal. Learning to say no also teaches you something important about your relationships. When you stop agreeing automatically, people begin showing you how they truly respond to your independence. Some will respect your limits, some will ask questions without pressuring you. Some may even become closer to you because your honesty creates trust, but others may become angry, distant, or manipulative. They may remind you of everything they have done for you. They may make you feel selfish. They may act as though your boundary is an attack. Their reaction is information. It does not automatically mean your boundary is wrong. Sometimes the strongest evidence that a boundary is necessary is the anger it creates in someone who benefited from your lack of one. You do not need to say no with aggression. You do not need to become cold, defensive, or disrespectful. A powerful no can be calm. You can speak with kindness while remaining firm. You can listen without surrendering. You can acknowledge someone's disappointment without accepting responsibility for fixing it. This is emotional maturity, caring about another person's feelings without allowing those feelings to control every decision you make. Each time you say no honestly, you rebuild trust with yourself. You prove that your inner voice matters. You show yourself that your needs will no longer be ignored simply to keep others comfortable. Slowly, the people pleaser inside you begins losing its power. The fear of being disliked becomes weaker. The need to explain becomes smaller. Your confidence grows because you learn that you can survive someone else's disappointment without abandoning your own values. The goal is not to say no to everyone. The goal is to stop saying yes when the truth inside you is no. Your yes should come from freedom, not fear. It should be a genuine choice, not a payment you make to remain accepted. When you learn this, kindness becomes stronger because it is no longer forced. Your generosity becomes meaningful because it is no longer driven by guilt. And your relationships become more honest because people begin meeting the real you, not the version that agrees with everything. The people pleaser inside you starts to disappear when you realize that protecting your peace does not require permission, and saying no does not require an apology. And once you can set boundaries without guilt, you are ready to stop carrying emotions that were never yours to manage. One of the deepest habits of a people pleaser is believing that everyone's emotions are their responsibility. You walk into a room and immediately begin reading faces, tones, and moods. If someone looks upset, you feel pressure to make them feel better. If someone becomes quiet, you wonder whether you did something wrong. If two people are in conflict, you feel responsible for restoring peace. You may spend hours replaying conversations, searching for the exact moment when someone's mood changed. Without realizing it, you become an emotional manager, constantly adjusting your behavior to keep everyone comfortable. But while you are busy carrying everyone else's feelings, who is carrying yours? This is where the people pleaser inside you becomes exhausted. You are not only living your own life, you are trying to control the emotional experience of everyone around you. You soften your opinion so nobody feels challenged. You hide your needs so nobody feels pressured. You agree to things you do not want because you are afraid someone will feel rejected. You apologize before anyone even says they are hurt. Over time, you become so focused on preventing other people's discomfort that you stop recognizing your own. You may appear calm on the outside while carrying constant tension inside. You become emotionally tired not because you care too much, but because you have confused caring with responsibility. There is a difference between compassion and emotional control. Compassion says, I see that you are hurting and I care. People-pleasing says, you are hurting, so I must fix it, even if I have to abandon myself. Compassion allows you to support someone without losing your identity. People-pleasing makes you believe that another person's happiness depends on your behavior, but you cannot control every reaction. You cannot prevent every disappointment. You cannot make everyone understand you. And you cannot build a peaceful life while treating every negative emotion around you as an emergency that you must solve. Some people may be disappointed because you said no. That disappointment belongs to them. You can acknowledge it without surrendering your boundary. Someone may be angry because you disagreed. Their anger does not automatically prove that you were wrong. Someone may feel uncomfortable because you stopped being endlessly available. Their discomfort may simply be the result of adjusting to a healthier version of you. The people pleaser inside you wants to remove that discomfort immediately. It tells you to apologize, explain, change your decision, or return to the old role. But if you constantly rescue people from every emotion, you may prevent them from taking responsibility for their own feelings. This does not mean becoming emotionally cold. You do not have to ignore people's pain or act as though emotions do not matter. You can listen without taking ownership. You can offer support without sacrificing your peace. You can say, I understand that you are disappointed without adding, so I will abandon my decision. You can care about someone's feelings while accepting that you cannot control them. This is emotional maturity. It allows you to remain compassionate without becoming emotionally controlled. The people pleaser often becomes the person everyone depends on because they rarely allow others to face their own discomfort. If someone forgets a responsibility, you fix it. If someone creates a problem, you clean it up. Someone becomes upset, you immediately change your behavior. At first, this may make you feel needed. People appreciate your reliability. They come to you because they know you will help. But being needed is not the same as being respected. Sometimes people rely on you because you have taught them that you will carry burdens they should be carrying themselves. And every time you rescue them from a responsibility that belongs to them, you become more exhausted while they become less accountable. There is a hidden fear beneath this behavior. If I stop helping, will they still value me? This question reveals why people-pleasing can become an identity. You may have learned to feel important by being useful. You became the listener, the fixer, the peacemaker, the one who always understands. But if your value depends entirely on what you do for others, you may feel empty whenever you are unable to help. You may believe that rest is selfish because you are not contributing. You may feel guilty when you choose your own needs. The people pleaser inside you keeps you busy because silence might force you to ask a difficult question. Who am I when I am not solving everyone else's problems? The answer is that you are still valuable. Your worth does not disappear when you are unavailable. You do not become selfish because you need rest. You do not become uncaring because you allow someone else to experience disappointment. You are not responsible for keeping every relationship emotionally comfortable. Healthy relationships allow both people to have feelings, boundaries, needs, and moments of disagreement. If a relationship only remains peaceful when you suppress yourself, that is not peace. It is emotional surrender. As you stop managing everyone's emotions, you may notice that some people react strongly. They may say you have changed. They may accuse you of becoming distant. They may attempt to make you feel guilty for no longer carrying what was never yours. This is where you must remain calm. You do not need to argue. You do not need to prove that you still care. Let your actions show that you can be kind without becoming controlled. You can remain present without being consumed. You can listen without fixing. You can support without surrendering. The strongest people are not those who never feel other people's emotions. They are those who can remain compassionate without losing their center. They understand where their responsibility ends. They know that every person must learn to manage their own reactions, face their own disappointments, and carry their own emotional weight. When you finally accept this, you stop living in constant fear of upsetting people. You begin making decisions based on truth rather than emotional pressure. Your relationships become more honest because you are no longer performing the role of everyone's emotional caretaker. The people pleaser inside you begins to lose control when you understand that you can care deeply without carrying everything. And once you stop rescuing everyone from disappointment, you become strong enough to let people react to your boundaries without returning to the version of you they could easily control. The moment you stop pleasing everyone, some people will become disappointed. This is not a possibility. It is almost unavoidable. For years, they may have known you as the person who always agreed, always adjusted, always helped, and always made room for their needs. They became comfortable comfortable with your endless patience. They expected you to answer immediately, forgive quickly, accept excuses, and remain available no matter how much it costs you. Then one day you begin saying no. You stop explaining every decision. You protect your time. You speak honestly. You refuse to carry emotions that do not belong to you. Suddenly people may say, "You've changed." And they will be right. You have changed. But the question is not whether you changed. The question is whether you finally stopped abandoning yourself to make everyone else comfortable. The people pleaser inside you fears disappointment because it has been taught to treat other people's reactions as a measure of your character. If someone is unhappy with you, you immediately assume you have done something wrong. If someone becomes distant, you feel responsible for bringing them back. If someone calls you selfish, you begin questioning your boundaries. But disappointment is not proof of wrongdoing. A person can be disappointed because you refused an unreasonable request. They can be upset because you no longer give them unlimited access to your time. They can dislike your boundary because it prevents them from receiving something they once received without effort. Their reaction may be real, but it does not automatically mean your decision was wrong. This is where your transformation will be tested. Setting a boundary is often easier than maintaining one after someone reacts negatively. You may say no with confidence, but when the other person becomes cold, angry, or distant, the old people pleaser inside you may return. It may whisper, "Maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I should give in just this once." You may feel an urge to send another message, explain yourself again, or remove the boundary simply to restore peace. But ask yourself, is this real peace, or is it the temporary comfort that comes from returning to self-betrayal? Many people confuse peace with the absence of conflict. They believe that if everyone is happy, everything is healthy. But a relationship can look peaceful while one person is silently suffering. If you must always agree, remain quiet, hide your needs, and accept disrespect to prevent conflict, then the relationship is not peaceful. It is unbalanced. You are carrying the emotional cost so everyone else can remain comfortable. Real peace allows honesty. It allows disagreement. It allows both people to have boundaries without fear of punishment. If someone only treats you well when you obey their expectations, then their approval may be based on control rather than respect. When you begin changing, people will reveal how they truly see you. Some will listen. They may not enjoy your boundary, but they will respect it. They may feel disappointed, yet they will still care about your well-being. These are the people who value you as a person, not merely as a source of support. But others may become defensive. They may call you selfish because they benefited from your selflessness. They may call you cold because they were used to your emotional availability. They may accuse you of becoming difficult because you are no longer easy to control. Their words may hurt, especially if you have spent years trying to be seen as kind. But do not allow someone else's discomfort to force you back into a version of yourself that was slowly destroying your peace. You must learn to let people misunderstand you without immediately trying to correct them. The people pleaser wants everyone to recognize their good intentions. It wants to explain, prove, and defend, but not every opinion deserves your energy. If you know your boundary is fair, respectful, and honest, you do not need to turn it into a debate. You can say, "I understand that you feel disappointed, but my decision remains the same." This sentence carries strength because it acknowledges their emotions without surrendering your position. You are not denying their feelings. You are simply refusing to make their feelings the authority over your life. There is a powerful difference between being disliked and being disrespectful. You may be disliked because you stopped doing everything for everyone. You may be criticized because you finally expressed an opinion. You may lose certain connections because you no longer accept behavior that once seemed normal. But being disliked does not mean you have become a bad person. Sometimes being disliked is the natural result of becoming honest. You cannot build an authentic identity while making universal approval your highest goal. The moment you decide to live according to your values, some people will disagree. That is not failure. It is evidence that you are no longer shaping your entire life around other people's expectations. The people pleaser inside you may also fear losing relationships. You may wonder, what if they leave because I changed? But consider another question. What if they only stayed because you kept sacrificing yourself? A relationship that depends on your silence is not asking for the real you. A friendship that survives only when you are always available is not respecting your limits. A connection that punishes you for having needs may be attached to your usefulness, not your identity. Healthy relationships do not require you to disappear. They make room for your voice, your boundaries, your growth, and your individuality. Letting people be disappointed does not mean becoming indifferent. You can remain compassionate, you can listen, you can communicate respectfully, but you do not have to rescue everyone from the emotions created by your honesty. Their disappointment may be temporary. It may even help them adjust to a healthier relationship with you. People are capable of handling emotions that you once believed you had to prevent. You do not need to make every situation comfortable. Sometimes discomfort is part of growth for them and for you. Every time you allow someone to be disappointed without abandoning your boundary, you build self-trust. You prove that you can survive disapproval. You learn that another person's anger does not have to control your choices. Slowly, the people pleaser loses its strongest weapon, fear. You become calmer because you no longer panic when someone is unhappy. You become clearer because your decisions are guided by values rather than guilt. And you become stronger because your kindness is now chosen freely, not demanded through emotional pressure. The goal is not to make people unhappy. The goal is to stop making yourself unhappy just to protect everyone else from disappointment. Those who truly respect you will learn to meet the real you. Those who only valued your obedience may resist the change. Either way, you gain something more important than universal approval. You regain your identity, and once you can survive being misunderstood, disliked, or disappointed without returning to people-pleasing, you are ready to build a life that no longer needs anyone's approval to feel valuable. The final step in killing the people-pleaser inside you is building an identity that does not depend on anyone's approval. As long as your confidence rises when people praise you and collapses when they criticize you, other people will continue controlling your sense of worth. You may appear independent, but deep inside you will still be waiting for permission to feel valuable. The people pleaser survives through this dependence. It tells you, if they approve of me, I am doing well. If they are disappointed, I must change. If they leave, I must have failed. But the moment you stop allowing other people's reactions to define who you are, the people pleaser begins losing its final source of power. For too long, you may have built your identity around being liked. You became the helpful one, the understanding one, the reliable one, the person who never caused problems. You learned how to read people and adjust yourself to fit their expectations. Around one person, you became quieter. Around another, you became more agreeable. In certain relationships, you hid your opinions because honesty felt dangerous. You changed your behavior depending on who was watching because acceptance had become more important than authenticity. But when your identity changes to satisfy every person around you, you eventually reach a painful question. Who am I when nobody needs anything from me? That question can feel uncomfortable because people-pleasing often becomes more than a habit. It becomes a role. You may feel useful when you solve problems, valuable when you help, and important when people depend on you. But what happens when you are unable to give? What happens when you need rest? What happens when you choose your own goals instead of someone else's demands? If your entire identity is built on being useful, you may feel guilty whenever you are not serving someone. You may believe you must earn love through effort. You may think your worth disappears when you are not making someone else happy, but your value is not a reward for constant sacrifice. You are valuable even when you are resting, saying no, choosing yourself, or doing nothing for anyone. This is why you must begin building your identity on values rather than approval. Approval changes. People's opinions change. Someone may praise you today and criticize you tomorrow. If your identity depends on their reaction, your confidence will always be unstable. But values give you something stronger. When you know what you stand for, you do not need every person to agree with you. When you know that honesty matters, you can speak truthfully even when it creates discomfort. When you value self-respect, you can walk away from situations that require you to abandon yourself. When you value discipline, you can continue working even when nobody notices. Your identity becomes stable because it is built from principles that remain yours. The people pleaser asks, what do they want from me? The stronger version of you asks, what do I believe is right? The people pleaser asks, how can I make sure nobody is upset? The stronger version asks, how can I be honest without becoming cruel? The people pleaser asks, what must I do to be accepted? The stronger version asks, am I accepting myself while living according to my values? These questions change the direction of your life. You stop making every decision based on fear. You begin making decisions based on clarity. Building self-trust is essential. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. Every time you honor a boundary, you prove that your needs matter. Every time you express an honest opinion, you show yourself that your voice deserves space. Confidence does not appear because everyone approves of you. Confidence grows when you learn that you can depend on yourself. It grows when your actions match your values. It grows when you stop abandoning yourself during difficult moments. The people pleaser becomes weaker because you no longer need others to confirm that you are worthy. This does not mean you should ignore feedback or believe you are always right. Emotional strength is not arrogance. You can listen to criticism without allowing criticism to destroy your identity. You can admit mistakes without believing that you are a failure. You can apologize when you have caused harm without apologizing for having boundaries. The difference is that you evaluate feedback instead of automatically obeying it. You ask, is this true? Is this useful? Does this align with my values? If it does, you grow. If it does not, you let it pass. You no longer treat every opinion as a command. As you become more authentic, some people may become uncomfortable. They may prefer the old version of you because that version was easier to predict and easier to influence. They may say you are different, but becoming different is the purpose. You are no longer living to be convenient. You are learning to be honest. You are no longer shaping your identity around who might leave. You are building a life that remains meaningful even when you are alone. This does not make you disconnected. It makes your relationships healthier because you can now choose people without needing them to complete your identity. The strongest relationships are not built when one person constantly sacrifices themselves to keep the other happy. They are built when two people can be honest, independent, and respectful at the same time. When you no longer need approval, you stop chasing people who withdraw. You stop overgiving to prove your value. You stop accepting disrespect because you fear loneliness. You become capable of caring deeply without losing yourself. Your kindness becomes more powerful because it is freely chosen. Your generosity becomes more meaningful because it is not driven by guilt. Your love becomes healthier because it is no longer a bargain for acceptance. This is the transformation. You do not kill the people pleaser by becoming cold. You kill it by becoming whole. You do not stop caring about others. You stop abandoning yourself for them. You do not become selfish. You finally include yourself in the respect you give everyone else. You do not reject connection. You reject the belief that connection requires self-erasure. From this moment forward, let your values guide you more than your fear. Let your self-respect speak louder than your need to be liked. Let your boundaries protect the life you are building. Some people may approve, some may not, but your identity will no longer rise and fall with their reactions. The people pleaser inside you finally disappears when you realize that being accepted by everyone is not worth losing yourself, and that the strongest version of you is the one who can be kind, honest, and unapologetically true to who you are.